Going to be right up front here. Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows isn't the worst. But is it as good as the first film? No. But it separates itself enough from the first film while still being a sequel. And that's one of the things I really liked about Book of Shadows is that it actually had the balls to take a new direction that I haven't seen many horror sequels go before. Because this film, it doesn't continue the story of the first film, let's say, but it pays homage, and we're seeing the whole phenomenon of how widespread the first film has gone, how terrifying it is. Because, like, the first 15 minutes of this movie, I really dug because we're seeing all these news reports, and they're saying that the Blair Project is the most terrifying movie, and I ran out of that theater crying and screaming. And you're hearing the widespread at how what's the word here, at how fast it's gone from person to person, and how this is like the scariest movie of all time, and that people think that this is actually based on true events, which is what people did think when Blair Witch did come out. People did think, from seeing all those missing posters and seeing the marketing for that film, people did actually buy into the fact that the Blair Witch Project was based on real events. But then years later, we found out that this is just a film, which that's another thing I liked. This film pays homage to the fact that film tells lies, but video doesn't. Like, there's a great line in this movie where one of the characters, I can't exactly phrase what he said, but he said, "Film can lie, video can't because it captures everything." People are doing tours of the woods that the Blair Witch Project was filmed in, and there's merchandise, there's marketing, there's promotion, and all that being sold, because the guy who runs the Blair Witch tours in this movie, he has a website where you can buy like merchandise, and you can buy like the symbols that were in the first film. Another thing I can give this movie credit for is the cinematography. The first film was shot in found footage. Book of Shadows is shot a lot more professionally. I thought it was something unique and welcoming compared to the first film. Like, they didn't rinse and repeat like a lot of horror sequels do. Like, anyone can grab a camera and go out into the woods and film themselves. Like, that worked a first time, but it won't work a second time. It won't be as effective knowing that it's all fake, knowing that it's all film. Someone can grab a camera and film themselves. It's not that hard. But for this sequel to have the balls to say, we are going to go a new direction, we are going to go a new story direction, we are going to do something new, fresh and unique with the cinematography. You can hate on me for liking this, but I actually liked the soundtrack in this movie, and I know the director doesn't agree on the soundtrack for this movie, but I rather liked the more heavy metal punk side of the soundtrack. And we even have a character who is into gothic, who is into like heavy metal and all of that. So I thought the heavy metal score worked really well for this movie. And the acting by everyone in this movie, I thought everyone did a good job. Not quite as good as the first. Characters, on the other hand, let's talk about them, because the characters are very undeveloped in this movie. You don't learn much about these characters from when you meet them to the end of the movie. You don't know much about these characters. The movie doesn't really develop, and that was one of my issues with the first film, is there's no characters to really attach yourself onto, and which makes these characters and the characters in the first film very unlikable, which makes it hard to root for the characters when all the bad shit is going down at the end of this movie, because there's nothing that you can relate to, there's nothing that you can attach yourself to this character, which makes him very unlikable, very uninteresting, and very forgettable when they are on screen. But pushing all that aside, let's talk about what I didn't like in this movie. And the first thing I didn't like in this movie is the unnecessarily inserted gore moments in this movie. Like, I'm all for gore in my horror movies. When I watch a horror movie, I expect some good kills. I expect some good gore moments. But Book of Shadows did not need it because it was inserted in just the most random places throughout the film. It's like they didn't know what to do with it, so they just inserted it at random parts that don't really, I guess, contribute to the story being told. I mean, it does play somewhat of a part in the film and in the story being told. Like, there is a backstory for it, and it's not really that well developed. It's more just there to increase the runtime. Cut out the gore from this movie. I feel like it would have been a much better of a movie because there's parts of this movie where we're with the characters, and then it suddenly cuts to this scene where a guy is stabbing someone, and then it cuts back to the characters, and there's no context to that scene. It was just kind of shoved in there, and that's what I mean by it's there just to make the film brutal. It's there just to make it disturbing with no context to what's happening, and it takes you out of the scene when it's just random, when it's inserted in the most random place, especially if it's a conversation with a character. It doesn't serve any purpose, and plus the film is more about the craziness that the Blair Witch started, and the Blair Witch didn't even have any gore in it. If there was a kill, it was off screen, like the ending of the first film where we didn't see it, but we just saw the camera drop and then it faded to credits. Now that was an effective ending, as I stated in my review, because all you heard was intense screaming, and so you can obviously assume that something bad is happening, that this witch that we don't see in the film is doing something, and we can obviously assume that the camera is dropped, so obviously something has happened, something bad has happened. Here's the thing, alright, I am okay with a Blair Witch movie having gore in it, as long as that gore serves a purpose to the story being told and has some sort of a context behind it. Another thing I didn't like in this movie is the script. It's not that I dislike the script in this movie. I think the script is fine, but it's just how the characters are written into the script that I don't like. Because as I've already talked about the characters, I won't talk about this point for long, but the character development is very rushed over. Because the film wants to get into the horror shit as quickly as it can. Like the first Blair Witch, it was a slow burn. This Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows really wants to get into the horror shit as quickly as it can. And the first act in particular, there were just so many moments which were missed opportunities for character development, because not all these people know each other. And so for it to, I guess, build a more comfortable environment and setting for these characters, I felt like just character development, like there were so many moments where you could have inserted like maybe a bit about the character's past, how he heard about the Blair Witch, or just something. Like, I don't know. But and that was my problem with the first Blair Witch as well, is just that there were so many moments in that movie that could have been character building moments. But so it's like the same problem applies to this one, is that the characters, there's just nothing to attach yourselves to. And as I've said in the past, if you're going to make a horror movie, when these characters are getting hunted down by whatever it is, by either it's Freddy, but if it's a curse or whatever, you need to have good characters. And that was a big problem for me when I watched, what was it? It was like the haunting of like it was this haunted house movie on Netflix. I can't remember what it was, but my problem in that movie was that since the main focus is this group of characters, there's no development, there's no relationship or backstory to who these characters are. It's just that it would have made these characters more likable. So when something bad happens to the characters in the second and third act of this movie, when shit does get real, you should be feeling for the characters. You should be, yelling at the screen, and you should be saying, no, don't go in there. It's just something. It's just like, yeah, this. Like I don't want to talk about this point for long. 'Cause I feel like I'm just repeating what I said in my review of the first film, but it's just I just don't know how to get this point across. If you're to make a horror film, you need to have a believable main character or a believable group of characters, as this film does, because there's really no one main focus. There's a variety of characters that you are focused on. I'm not going to talk about this point anymore because I've said this multiple times in other reviews, and I don't think I need to repeat myself. That is my review for Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows. Go ahead, trash the comments with hate, because I know how much hate this movie has. But this is just my own opinion. This is just what I got from it, watching it for the first time last night. But if you hate the movie, which I know a lot of people do, that is fine. I respect your opinion. But yeah, I actually enjoyed this movie. So, which I didn't know what to go into this movie really expecting. I went into it just open-minded, just kind of knowing all the hate. I didn't want to go into it being like, oh, I want to hate this movie just for the sake of hating it, because I'm willing to give like any horror movie a chance, and as I've done with a lot of movies throughout this month, I've given them a chance. I've went in open-minded, and I've came out really surprised and really liking it and having a good time. So, anyways, so let me know down in the comments, have you seen Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Are you one of the people that actually like this movie? Did you think it was meh, or did you really not like it? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye.